Welcome back, Better Call Saul fans. I'm excited to discuss Season 6, Episode 8, Point and Shoot. If you have not seen that episode, get out of here. You should not be on this video. Also, there's going to be no spoilers the rest of the way. I don't know what happens. If you, for some reason, if you know what happens, do not put it in the comments below. And then lastly, before we get started, this isn't a traditional recap video because there's enough people doing those recap videos and they do a great job of it, frankly. So what we're going to do today is just go through 10 things that I noticed about this episode with some ideas about what it all might mean going forward. So let's jump into it. Number 1, we learned exactly what Saul meant in Breaking Bad with the iconic line, "It wasn't me, it was Ignacio." Once Kim leaves the apartment to go kill Gus, Lalo explains how Ignacio turned on him and got all of his family killed. And he said that since Ignacio had introduced him to Jimmy, that he's skeptical of Jimmy's potential involvement. So right as Lalo is putting that gag in Jimmy's mouth, Jimmy screams the lines, "It wasn't me, it was Ignacio." Now, this all makes sense because of a few different things that's going on here. First, a viewer in my comments, I don't have your @, so I apologize for that, but shout out to you. He mentioned a couple weeks ago that since Jimmy is associating being in the desert with Lalo, especially with the Bagman episode, that it makes complete sense that when Walt and Jesse kidnap him and take him out to the desert, that he's thinking that somehow Lalo is behind it. Also, do not forget, towards the end of this episode, Mike didn't even say the words "Lalo is dead." He didn't even say, "I saw his dead body," or anything like that, anything conclusive like that. He simply said Lalo was not coming back. That leaves it vague enough in my mind for Saul to still think that Lalo might be out there in the Breaking Bad era. So as far as I'm concerned, I think this wraps up that storyline and the questions surrounding why would Saul say that in Breaking Bad. Or at the very least, it completely makes sense to me if this storyline is left as is for the rest of the show. But let me know if I'm somehow missing anything that needs to potentially be addressed there, but I don't think it does. Now, the second thing that we learned from this episode is that Gus hires the absolute worst security team possible. Now, let me walk through all of the mishaps that this team had. So when Gus walks into the laundry room, one of the meatheads that's with him asks, "Is there something that we should be looking for?" And my initial thought to that was, yeah, you idiot. You should be looking for the guy that you've been looking for the whole last month. That's what you should be looking for. Then when Gus is looking at the fan that stopped, spinning, notice how all of the meatheads are just staring straight at Gus, but no one's looking around. Everyone's just looking in one direction in the corner. And then after that, look at when Lalo comes out and he shoots the two guys on the right side of our screen. Notice how the two guys on the left had such a slow reaction to turn around and try and get some shots off. It was pretty abysmal security for Gus's team. So he clearly brought out the C or even the D team to go to the laundry room with him. But I am not done with Gus's bad security team. Sorry. Do you remember in Season 5, Episode 10, when Gus hired quote-unquote the best assassins in the world? And then they come into the house, Lalo's in the kitchen. Lalo does take out one of the assassins, which is bound to happen. And Lalo had a good sneak attack with the oil on the grill and all that stuff. But then the next one comes into the kitchen and he just starts shooting constantly at windows without even aiming at anything. He's just shooting at windows while Lalo crawls out of the room. Then he starts walking to his hideaway. And all the while in that entire scene, that idiot keeps shooting his gun at God knows what. So just like Kim told Lalo in Season 5 to get your shit together, Gus, you've got to get your security team together because this is amateur hour. This is embarrassing. This is unacceptable. Number 3, the third thing that we learned was that Gus only got 3 shots off in his gun. Now, if you go back and you can hear more shots and you hear it differently, let me know. But I listened to this scene multiple times, and when Gus grabbed that gun and he's going to shoot Lalo, I only heard 3 shots that came from Gus. Wouldn't Gus be more prepared to shoot more rounds than that? Now, look, I might be a little critical here. I still love the episode, love the writing, love the series. But man, I found these 2 things with Gus to be a little head-scratching in my mind. The 4th thing that we learned learned is that Lalo has terrible aim. I think he had an easy shot to kill Gus right when Gus made his move, and he missed it. Now you might be saying, but Scott, it was in the dark. But again, let's look at this picture that I'm going to put up right now. Gus makes his move. He does the light thing, and Lalo's got a clear shot. How does he miss this shot? Now, I will give Lalo some credit. He did get a number of bullets into Gus, but of course, it went straight into his bulletproof vest. Also, I do want to add, I was obviously wrong on who was going to kill Lalo. I thought it was going to be Mike. Unfortunately, or no, fortunately, I mean, this is a good ending and a good scene, but it was right in front of us the entire time when Gus planted that gun a few episodes ago in the lab. It was as simple as that. I was trying to make it more complicated than it ended up being. The fifth thing that we learned from this episode is that Lyle's the best employee ever. Can I hire Lyle for my own business? This guy is literally singing his way to work at a fast casual restaurant, an industry that's extremely hard to keep workers at and have that retention level high. Oh, and by the way, Gus did not even tell him what his extra pay is going to be. It better be more than his hourly rate. And I'm thinking, Gus, that it at least has to be time and a half. But shout out to you, Lyle, for manning the fort and doing an exceptional job. You actually might be a good fit on the security team since you've clearly got more responsibilities and a better know how to do things than the security team that Gus hires. Now, here's a spin-off idea for you guys. What if we get a spin-off of Lyle resurrecting the Los Pollos Hermanos restaurants after the Breaking Bad era and bringing back that amazing chicken that Lalo liked so much to the ABQ? Now, if you like that idea, please smash the subscribe button down below to let me know that you're in on the Lyle spinoff idea. The sixth thing that we learned is that Jimmy finally, clearly, 100% knows that Mike is a cleanup guy. We already knew that Jimmy kind of knew that Mike was a cleanup guy because of Mike's help in the Bagman episode and the fallout there, as well as the various odds and ends things that Mike's been involved with Jimmy over the last 5 seasons. But this episode right here, season 6, episode 8, it really crystallized who Mike was right in front of Jimmy's eyes. The way that Mike cleaned up Jimmy and Kim's apartment with attention to every last detail, as well as clear instructions on what to do next, helps Jimmy understand really who Mike is, and it is also why Saul knows to call Mike in Breaking Bad when Jane dies in season 2, episode 13. My seventh thing that I noticed that we learned in this episode is that Kim is pissed off at Mike. Now, when Kim got to Gus's house and sat down and started talking to Mike, she finally verbalized something that had probably been on her mind the last hour since Lalo showed up. Where in the hell was the backup that Mike had promised? Kim yells at Mike in this scene for not having their back, and I think it's just a matter of time before she tells Jimmy about the conversation with Mike in the El Camino diner and how Mike let her and them down. How she was expecting backup right when Lalo came in, and it never came. I think Mike's going to pay for that. I think we're going to see more on that storyline in the next 5 episodes. My 8th point, this goes along with my 7th point that we learned, is that Mike feels tremendous guilt. Towards the end of this episode, we see Mike with great distress on his face as they bury Howard. You can literally feel the pain in this superb acting job by Mr. Jonathan Banks. He does not want civilians to die in these games that he and Lalo and Gus and even Jimmy and Kim are playing. He's still got a heart for people who did not go down the bad choice road that he is on. We also saw him ask Gus, and I quote, "Are you happy with the way things went down? Because I'm not." Now, I'm not 100% sure how this is going to manifest itself in the next 5 episodes, but I do think it will. I think we're going to get one more arc in Mike's story in the Better Call Saul universe, and it's going to relate to his failure to protect Kim, as well as how he offers security and protection to Gus, because Mike was not happy, and he really did feel guilt for a number of things in terms of how this played out, because it was kind of sloppy on the security end, as I've said before. The 9th thing that we learned on this episode is that Gus might be impressed by Jimmy. Now, Jimmy's smooth talking, as we saw in the beginning of the episode, got Lalo to change his mind and allow Kim to drive on over to Gus's house. And when Gus found that out, he had a little, facial expression that in my mind might have been him saying that he was impressed with Jimmy's capabilities to change Lalo's mind. Now, that's one interpretation of this scene where Gus finds out that Jimmy changed Lalo's mind. The other one, and this is also correct, is that, when Gus found this out, that Jimmy changed Lalo's mind, it triggered in his mind that Lalo didn't really care who he sent over to Gus's house, because Lalo's plan was for someone to arrive at Gus's house to distract his team and really distract the whole night. And then once Gus realized that, he knew where Lalo was ultimately going to end up. So I actually think it could be both of these. I think Gus could be impressed by Jimmy, and I also think that the changing of their mind did signal to Gus, hey, this is a diversion, and Lalo's going to the laundry room. So I think we could potentially see something between Jimmy and Kim and Gus in the future, and some kind of interaction or appreciation of of what Gus has for their lawyering skills. But of course, we do have to remember that Saul in Breaking Bad doesn't even know Gus's name, let alone his face. So maybe Gus and Kim have something more in store in these next 5 episodes. The 10th thing that we learned, and this might be the most pivotal to the remainder of the show, is that Jimmy and Kim will face the cops. We don't know the consequences, but they are going to face the cops. Mike explained quite rationally that since Howard's car was in their apartment complex for a few hours, it's very likely someone saw it, and there's no point in denying it, as that would only draw more suspicion. Instead, Mike tells them that once someone mentions how Howard is missing or dead via suicide, that they need to call the cops, and they need to tell them that he was here for a bit, acting funky, and then he left, and that's all that they know. By the way, that line, "and that's all you know," that's the same line that Mike told Jesse when Jane died again in that Breaking Bad episode. He told them the story, and then he said, "and that's all I know." Or he told them to say, "and that's all I know." So it's really important, great foreshadowing, and I like how they kind of put that into this episode. So as we wrap up here, we've been asking ourselves the whole series, where is Kim in Breaking Bad? Is she behind the scenes, or is she out of Jimmy's life for some reason? I think that this storyline right here is going to cause a big fracture in their relationship. Something's going to happen where it's going to be necessary for Kim and Jimmy to split up, and for Jimmy to become Saul in Breaking Bad all by himself. I think we're going to get a lot more clarity on this in the next episode, and I cannot wait to see it. If you like this video, please give me a like, as well as subscribe on the channel, and also just let me know in the comments if you want me to cover anything in particular as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.